Are you ready for the future of our planet? You might laugh, but there are warning signs that things are heading in a direction none of us expected. In this video, I'll reveal the 6 shocking facts that explain why the Sahara Desert is growing, and why that might be more dangerous than you think for Europe. This is not just news. This is a survival guide for the future. I'm not saying you, I'm saying you personally. Can you survive when the weather patterns shift, the landscape changes, and the Mediterranean shrinks before your very eyes? Today, we're pulling back the curtain on a crisis that's been quietly unfolding for decades, and it's gaining speed. Here's what we're diving into. 1. What's really behind the Sahara's rapid growth? It's not just natural, and the true cause might surprise you. 2. How could this expanding desert reshape Europe? From rising heat to shifting rainfall, the ripple effects are already starting. 3. What are the real dangers of desertification for Europe's future? We're talking about food shortages, migration waves, and economic shock. 4. Can anything stop it, or have we waited too long? The clock is ticking, and the window to act might be closing. 5. Why isn't anyone paying attention? This isn't some Hollywood doomsday, it's happening slowly, silently, and right in front of us. 6. And most importantly, what can you do right now to prepare? Because this isn't just about the environment, it's about survival. Stick with me, by the end of this video, you'll understand the threat, the stakes, and your next move. Imagine waking up tomorrow to find your homeland drastically changed. A once lush region now faces extreme heat waves, crops withering, and entire communities scrambling for water. Sounds like fiction, right? But it's happening right now, and it's far from fiction. Here's the truth. The Sahara is expanding, and it's not just a tiny patch of sand, it's a massive ecological shift that could disrupt weather patterns, food production, and human life across Europe. The real question is, how long until this creeping desert reaches the Mediterranean and transforms the whole landscape? It's like this. Imagine trying to live in a city that's slowly becoming a furnace, with temperatures too high to grow food, and water sources drying up faster than you can manage. 1. Why is the Sahara Desert growing so fast, and what's causing it? The Sahara Desert, which is the largest hot desert in the world, is getting bigger, and it's happening much faster than many people realize. You might think that deserts naturally expand over time due to changes in the weather, and while that's true to some extent, the Sahara's growth isn't just a natural process. In fact, human activity is a huge part of the problem. For instance, people overgraze the land by letting too many animals feed on it, and this damages the soil. The soil becomes weak and can't hold water properly, which makes it easier for the desert to spread. Additionally, people cut down trees and destroy vegetation to use land for farming or firewood. Trees and plants play a big role in keeping the soil healthy, but when they're removed, the land turns dry and barren, creating the conditions for the desert to expand. On top of that, climate change is making the weather even hotter and drier in many parts of the world, which makes the problem worse. As a result, the Sahara Desert is growing larger and spreading into areas that were once fertile and green, and this has a big impact on the environment and the people who live there. 2. How will the growing Sahara Desert affect Europe? The Sahara Desert's growth doesn't just threaten the areas around it in Africa. It could also have serious effects on Europe, especially the countries that are located near the Mediterranean Sea. As the desert spreads, it brings hotter temperatures and drier conditions with it. We are already seeing the effects of this in countries like Spain, Greece, and Italy, where people are experiencing hotter summers, longer periods without rain, and more frequent droughts. This doesn't just affect people's comfort, it also affects agriculture. Farmers in these regions rely on regular rainfall to grow crops like fruits, vegetables, and grains, but with less rain and more heat, crops are becoming harder to grow. When crops fail or are in short supply, it can lead to food shortages, higher prices, and even hunger in some areas. Furthermore, when the weather gets extreme, it causes more problems like wildfires, water shortages, and energy shortages because people need more power to stay cool in the heat. So, the Sahara's growth doesn't just mean more sand, it means hotter, drier conditions that disrupt the way people live and make it harder to grow food or maintain a stable economy. 3. What are the real dangers of desertification for Europe's future? Desertification is a process where fertile land turns into desert, and it's not just a problem for countries in Africa, it's something that could soon affect parts of Europe as well. When land becomes desertified, it means it can no longer support plant life, which leads to a decrease in food production. This might sound like something that only affects farmers, but it's actually a big deal for everyone because it can lead to food shortages, which will raise prices and make it harder for people to find affordable food. The desertification of land also affects water supplies, since dry land doesn't hold water very well. If this continues in Europe, it could create serious problems with water access for both people and industries. But desertification isn't just about the land, it also affects people. As land becomes less productive, people in nearby areas may be forced to leave their homes in search of better living conditions, and many of these people could try to move to Europe. This would put even more pressure on European countries to deal with an increase in migration, which could create political, economic, and social challenges. So, desertification is a dangerous cycle that affects both the environment and people's way of life, and it has the potential to cause serious problems for Europe's future stability. 4. Can anything stop the Sahara's expansion, or have we waited too long? So, here's the million-dollar question. Can we actually stop the Sahara from growing, or is it already too late? The truth is, it's not too late to take action, but we're running out of time. The good news is that there are things we can do to slow down desertification and its spread. However, it will take massive efforts, global cooperation, and a major shift in the way we treat the land. For example, we could improve farming techniques by using more sustainable methods that protect the soil, like crop rotation or agroforestry, planting trees alongside crops. Reforesting areas and planting vegetation helps hold the soil together and prevent erosion, which is a big factor in desertification. There's also a need to change the way we consume resources, for example, by reducing water waste and cutting back on deforestation. The bad news is that we've already seen significant damage, and if we don't act quickly, the consequences will become irreversible. The Sahara is already expanding rapidly, and unless we act now, we may be looking at a future where large parts of Europe are affected by desert-like conditions. The clock is ticking, and every year we delay taking action, the situation will get harder to manage. 5. Why isn't anyone paying attention? This isn't some Hollywood doomsday, it's happening slowly, silently, and right in front of us. Why isn't this crisis getting the attention it deserves? Desertification is a serious issue, but it's happening so slowly that people often overlook it. Unlike an immediate disaster like an earthquake or a massive flood, the spread of the Sahara is gradual. It doesn't happen overnight. It's not something you can see suddenly in one moment, but rather a slow, creeping change that happens year by year. That's why it often doesn't make headlines. Most people are distracted by more immediate concerns, things that feel urgent right now, like economic issues or political events. The truth is, this crisis isn't dramatic in the way we're used to seeing in movies or the news. It doesn't feel like an apocalypse that hits all at once. Instead, it's a quiet, slow-moving disaster that is inching closer every day. But this silent progress doesn't mean it's less dangerous. In fact, it may be even more dangerous because we aren't preparing for it. The desert is quietly expanding, and by the time many people realize what's happening, it may already be too late to reverse some of the damage. 6. And most importantly, what can you do right now to prepare? Because this isn't just about the environment, it's about survival. So, what can you do about it? This isn't just an issue for politicians, scientists, or farmers. It's something that affects everyone. The first thing to understand is that the growing desert isn't just about the environment. It's about how all of us live, eat, and survive. As the Sahara continues to grow and affects Europe, things like food prices, water access, and even migration will be impacted. You might not be able to stop the Sahara's expansion on your own, but there are steps you can take to prepare yourself, your family, and your community. Start by becoming more conscious of the environment around you. Every person can contribute to conserving resources, like water and energy, to reduce the pressure on the planet. If you live in a region affected by extreme heat or drought, start learning about how to be more self-sufficient, growing your own food, collecting rainwater, or even being more mindful about energy use. Support policies and organizations that focus on sustainability and fighting desertification. On a larger scale, it's important to get involved in local and global efforts to address these issues. Push for better land management practices, reforestation projects, and the reduction of harmful farming techniques. The sooner we start working together, the better our chances will be to protect our future. This is a survival issue, and the actions we take today will shape the world of tomorrow. Now, you know more than most people. And if you stayed until the end, here's a quick breakdown for you. What to do as the Sahara keeps expanding. 3 steps you can take right now to prepare. Comment below, are you ready for this change, or are you still in denial? Because the reality is coming fast.